And in the hands of like discerning, discreet, rational judges, you might say, okay, fine, but that's not the world we live in. We live in a world with extremely biased people that can often carry those biases into the courtroom, which is a huge problem.
The government's against me, so I'm going to go and specifically call out these local judges every day on my show. I mean, the comparison is Randy Weaver up in Ruby Ridge. He was just living his life out in the middle of nowhere, and the cops had a date that he was supposed to come to court that was wrong, and they were in the wrong, and he did not go, and he wasn't doing live streams at that point. So there's extremes here. I get what you're doing, but I don't know that the government is so good.
Nick is not Ruby Ridge. Okay. No. He is not Ruby. This is not Ruby Ridge. Right. And this is not something like he's a J6 who now got a lot of those charges have been bumped by the SCOTUS now. This is not some sort of super sympathetic liberty interest. This is, essentially him arguing, okay, I have a liberty interest in bypassing these laws, these laws being held exempt from a law that's been applied to other folks, and also the aspects of neglect towards children, which are now coming out, right? So look past all that. That's my liberty interest to that. And that's a different argument, right, than Ruby Ridge or, the civil rights movement or any of this stuff.
Government has a problem in my case, and that is that they cannot show any evidence you find it absent in any of the documents. That's on the government. If they decide they need to show that, then they will attempt to show it.
I saw that, and I think we both had the same reaction. Like, what the f- are you talking about? But my question for you is, I thought I gave him the benefit of the doubt that this was an argument he was not trying to make for the criminal side, because I was like, it's totally irrelevant for the criminal side. Yeah. The criminal side is possession. I'm like, is this an argument on the CPS side? And that's kind of the question I want to ask to you. Is this some sort of CPS argument that he's trying to use here, or what was going on? Do you think that was his angle with this, was more on the child side?
Yeah, good question, because he's not being charged with you used it. It's possession. I mean, I think that's the exact.
It's clear. And look, Nick has really bad legal takes, like really abysmal, like doesn't read the complaint and just talks out of his ass on cause of action that aren't even relevant. Like, he's really bad, but I don't think he's that stupid to think that the charge that he is presently charged with is use. I don't think he's that stupid. I mean, even Nick, who was really bad, I don't think he's that bad. So that's why I thought it had to be on the child side, right?
That's a good question. Look, he said at the very end, and they can do that if they want. It's kind of like throwing. I'm like, okay, so I guess you're allowing them to. Maybe that's your get out of jail card for that comment. However, the standard isn't beyond a reasonable doubt for criminal whether he had possession or not. Now it's best interest of the child standard. And the problem you're going to have, unless they can get this hair follicle test thrown out for the daughter, is if he says I didn't take drugs and he releases his drug. Let me get back into this real quick. Here's the problem he has now, which is the court has mandated that he do these testing. Now, in California, they wouldn't do a hair follicle test. It would be a urine test. It's the least invasive possible.
Is it more reliable? Like, because people are talking about false positives on Rumble and other things. I think I mean, both of them in most states, the hair follicle and urine are found to be admissible because they meet a certain standard of reliability. But I believe it's like almost one in over 100,000 or 1 in a million. I mean, it's very low. False positive rate.
Yeah, and they can see in the root, I guess, or whatnot, how long this substance has been in there or what kind of use it is. So for that, it's really good. Now they said he had to do like a substance assessment. So you go to an alcohol abuse or drug abuse person, and they will give you a full assessment, an expert about how bad your situation is, and they will testify to the court to this. And then there's a drug test that they're saying you have to take this. The problem is if he doesn't do it, he's just not going to get the kids. So he can push back and say, I'm not going to do this. They're not going to get the kids. And then they're going to go to trial. Now, can they use that against him? Probably. And the fact that his daughter had it in her system, that's a problem as well. So you're going to have to show the court that you are clean. We do this all the time. Now, person has a drug problem. The court now orders you're going to, alcohol testing 6 months. Show us you can be clean and sober for 6 months. No missed tests. Everything missed tests is a positive test. And they do it, and then the best interest of the child standard comes into play. So he may be saying that, but maybe it's naivete to assume that that's going to get you out of this situation. I mean, I'm hoping that it's he has a good excuse for this, and the daughter was. That's just.
I know. Really look. I think we're on the same page. I hope this is not true for the child's sake, right? Not for Nick's sake, right? For the child's sake, I hope it is not true, and I hope it is incorrect. However, based on the way, and once again, this has been kind of talked about by a lot of people, the way the follicle test works, right? And that couldn't be this is something that's been talked about, but from my understanding, it cannot be external. So it's not like she found something and she rolled around in it, right?
There's a hair test, and then there's a hair follicle test, and this is a hair follicle test.
Right. So this is not something that's gonna pick up something that was in the environment, or she took a bag of booger sugar and threw it on her head. It's like that. This is something that was like in the system. So unless it was a false positive, which is extraordinarily rare. So there's going to be.
Have you? So look, I use these, and I always get an expert that comes and explains them. Haven't had to do one for a while. So I looked at it, and I understand the process. So I talked about that a little bit, but then the test results, Dick Masterson is saying this would be, a grown man would be high as a kite. This is extreme numbers. What are you thinking?
It was under under the rubric, it was in the moderate category. Now, yes. Granted, that's bad enough, but it wasn't in like the heavy user, right, like category. So, for an adult, right, but still.
The only way that he could get there that I see was there's two different times you see different testing, and it's picograms per milliliter or nanograms per milliliter. And if he thought it was supposed to be nanograms, she should have been dead. But so I don't know what his standard is.
Well, no. Dick's standard is he just can't read, and he wants to make an argument out of everything. Like Dick will argue with a tree if it could talk back, right? Like he's not. He's just going to argue because that's his shtick, and he thinks that's comedy, right? That's his version of comedy. But, to me, I don't engage with that sort of stuff because I'm not here to talk for comedic effect, right? I'm here to get at least closer to the law, right? And we have some entertainment, and I'll tell a joke every once in a while. Although on this topic, I joke a lot less because it's really not a laughing matter because kids are involved, right? Because this is, a general family situation. It's just not good. Right, these kids are going to be scarred for life. Even if the thing is false, this has affected them for the lifetime now, based on the severity of the situation. They're never going to forget this.